Welcome everyone to another workshop here at the Test Camp. This is Core Academic Skills Reading. This is the second workshop in this series, and today we're going to discuss how learning and practicing test skills will empower your test confidence. Now, those of you joining us live online, you're welcome to contribute your comments anytime, and we'll include as many as possible up here in the discussions. And if you join us directly through the Test Camp YouTube channel on demand, well, of course, you can pause and restart or replay that video anytime. Again, this workshop is the second in the core series. We suggest that you train in this order because the communication competencies are built on each other in those first three workshops. Do you see it there? Right, so up here you've got the writing, now we're in the reading, and if you stick around here a little bit later today, we're going to be doing the writing essay. All right, everybody sees that. All right, you likely know by now that around here the motto is prepare, practice, perform. Everyone who has successfully completed their training has passed their test. And that's because test taking is a skill. And the skills require practice. And this is the only place to learn and practice those test skills. So let's get started on that. First, to prepare means to understand not only the content, but understand yourself. An honest assessment of how well you know the content and how well you know your testing skills. So we start by learning the blueprint. I know many of you have participated, you said, in the teacher career workshops. Is that right? One of them? Right, the Pathways to Teaching. Okay. Well, these are all free, of course, and you can do these anytime. But what we talked about in there was that the blueprint can be a first indicator of how well you're going to do on the test. If you know the blueprint, you know the rules, right? So that's a lot of help to you. It's also a good first step to creating what we call My Study Plan. This is simply a schedule that includes reviewing and studying test content. All right, so let's learn about that blueprint. This is an overview of the test, the entire Core Academic Skills series. And the reading test has 56 multiple choice questions, and the time allotted is 85 minutes. So knowing this will help put you on a pace for success. Can you imagine what we mean there? Slow down. Right. You decide when to answer a question and when to save it for the next pass through your test. All right? That's how it works. Our first step now, though, is to identify what types of reading questions you can expect to encounter in your test. Now, we just said they're all formatted multiple choice, right? How many did we say? I think it was 55, right? So we identified now the reading competencies on which the questions are built. On this test, there are 4 competencies, and we're going to look at each one individually here today. The first competency on a reading comprehension test is ideas. So that you can expect questions based on this competency. They're going to test your ability to identify inferences, conclusions, and assumptions that you find when you read the passage. Now here's a sample test question. Okay, we're not going to read this now, but up at the top you see that's a typical passage. In this case it's the Gettysburg Address. And down there at the bottom is a typical question. All right, let's take a closer look at that. So that's pretty straightforward. And you can see how they're asking you about the ideas, right, of the passage. Here's a second sample from the same passage. All right, so note in this case the question is related to only a certain statement in the passage. All right, yes, ma'am, go ahead. Oh, back here, I'll answer your question. I'll repeat it for the folks listening in. So the question is about how many questions per passage, and so you can expect at least 3 up to 5. That's what those have gone before you have said. All right, so those were examples of questions written to test your ability to identify key ideas and details. The next competency is about purpose, to determine the author's purpose, or sometimes called the focus. To do this, just ask yourself why. Why was this passage written? So over at the Training Center, we help you identify the 4 main reasons. Can you think about what they might be? Why would somebody write? Okay, well, the first one we have on our list is opinion. What are some other words for opinion if we were a thesaurus here today, or some synonyms right over here? Okay, a belief. Okay, so they're writing because they have a belief about something and they have a viewpoint. What else over here? A point of view. There you go. All right, and when you write an essay, you might be given a prompt that asks you to express your opinion. All right, so let's take some time to discuss this at your tables. Opinion is just one of the 4 main reasons for writing. What do you think we have on our list for the other 3? Share your thoughts, see if you can match our list of purposes, and then we'll come back as a group and compare your ideas. Well, hey, those of you joining us today live online, share your thoughts and we'll include them in the discussion. And if you're joining us on demand by the Test Camp YouTube channel, this might be a good time to pause that recording and list some of your thoughts. How do you categorize purposes? All right, think about why authors write and also about that essay that you might have to write. They might ask for your opinion. Okay, so we'll be here when you restart the video. Yes, okay. All right, well, welcome back, everyone, up here. We're going to go ahead and show you here that the purposes are actually on this question. They actually show all 4, so let's see if we match up here together. Notice that there's 2 main categories, argumentative and informative. So that first argumentative purpose is opinion. When you want to, as you said over here, express a certain viewpoint. The second is persuasion. How many of you had that? Your tables had this, persuasion? Right. Now, how is this different than opinion? If you're writing about your opinion or if you're trying to persuade, what's the difference? Over here. Yeah, I'll repeat your comment for those listening in on the recording. Persuasion is a call to action. There you go. I like that. More than just providing a point of view. And here's a sample question from that same passage, the Gettysburg Address. Is this question argumentative? Yes, it's including the author's opinion, right? They think that this is critical or important. Right, so that's how it works. And there are 2 informative reasons to communicate. The first is to provide information when you want to teach, like provide facts or concepts. Those of you in teacher education programs, you might recognize this as direct teaching. The second way to be informative is to provide an explanation. You want to describe how. You give directions or instructions. All right, so see, here's another sample question. See if you can catch what's different on this one. Right, they're saying focus. Right, but they mean same thing, very close as purpose. Same sort of idea. All right, so there's an activity over in the training center that provides practice on determining the author's purpose or focus, why they wrote the passage. We discuss purpose in more detail also in the essay workshop. Let's move on to the third competency, which is structure. You might remember from the English workshop that these are the main concepts associated with structure. So we got modifiers, parallelism, and syntax. Remember these? They're all related to how the authors structure or organize, right? How they build sentences, how they build passages. And here are some of the terms related to structure. So the author organizes by being literal, figurative, or in some cases, technical. So again, let's take time at the tables to discuss the meaning of these terms. What does it mean to be literal, figurative, or technical? Share your thoughts with each other and how you would explain these terms to younger students. All right, come up with some examples too if you can, all right? All right, thanks. We'll come back as a group and compare your ideas. Hey, those of you joining us today live online, share your thoughts and we'll get them up here on the discussion boards. And if you're joining us on demand by the Test Camp YouTube channel, this might be another good time to pause that recording and check your understanding of these writing tools. We'll be here when you restart the video. Okay, so back up here, good discussions at the tables. Now we're going to be more clear about these tools, especially for those folks that are listening in on the video about structure. We said literal was, how about you over here? Yeah, so the author means exactly what they say or what they wrote. Okay, figurative, the author asks the reader to make the connection And I believe you said technical, the author is providing information, just flat out providing the information or an explanation. All right, very good. All right, let's take a look at some sample questions. This is a typical structure question. The format might be a little different, but pretty much this is what you're going to see. All right, you go up there and they're going to have some sentences or phrases that are numbered in bold. All right, in this case, we can eliminate some of the answers too. Let's start down there at the bottom. We can eliminate contradicts. Sentence 2 doesn't contradict sentence 1. What else can we eliminate? Yes, that's what we had too. We can eliminate restates, and that leaves you with clarifies or expands. Which do you like best in this case? All right, so that's a question answered, which also provides a preview for the next pass through the test. All right, so the next, or the fourth competency, the final one, is vocabulary, which you likely recognize again from the English workshop. These are the skills used to build test questions for this competency. All right, meanings of words, correct selection of words, and correct diction and tone. All right, here's an example. Of course, you're going to be given the whole passage. Yes, over here. So the question is about how long are the passages, okay? Usually 3 to 4 sections. So if it's, say it's an essay, usually 3 paragraphs. Is that about right? That's been your experiences? If it's a poem, there's stanzas, so 2 to 3 stanzas. Yes. So generally longer in length than you would see here, of course. Again, though, you can see why answering vocabulary questions on the first pass through the test can be a valuable time management strategy that we're going to talk about again here in just a few minutes. You can also expect to be asked vocabulary tools like this question about an idiom. All right, so that's an overview of the 4 competencies that are used to construct test questions. Let's discuss a test strategy suggested by those who have gone before you. All right, you can expect each passage to have several questions. Yes, that's right. That's what we were just talking about. Okay, so well, you were talking about the length of it, but this is talking about how many questions per passage. There you go. But it's about the same. So you're thinking about 3, at least 3 questions for each passage, sometimes as many as 5. Okay, and what are we talking about here? Passage or question? Anybody got this? Where do you start? Yeah, so this is a time test, one of the few that demands good time management. So do you read the passage, then try to answer the questions? Or do you read the questions and then try to find the answers up there in the passage? So what was your strategy before this workshop? How many here, let's see by show of hands, be honest now, no right or wrong on this, who reads the passage first and then goes and answers the questions? Okay, quite a few of us. All right, how many start with the questions and then go up to the passage? All right, so that's your current personal strategy, isn't it? So again, this sign is going to appear on the pathways over at the training center. Right, it indicates a message of encouragement sometimes. Sometimes those who have gone before you, they're trying to give you directions. In this case, a suggestion, which according to them, the greatest challenge is going to be how to invest your time. So their suggestion is to read the questions, or at least skim through them before reading the passage. Now here's why. There's 4 types of questions, right? We just talked about that. We looked through a few examples. Some questions are less challenging in that they require less time. All right, so they suggest that you invest your time on the least challenging questions the first pass through the test. All right, you get that? 2 types of questions are less challenging. Think you know which ones? That's right, we know vocabulary. The other one would be structure. Right. So investing time on these questions on the first pass through the test provides a preview of each passage, and it puts you on a pace for success. Right, there's only 40 questions. You can go through those, probably answer at least half of them on the first pass through, can't you? And this test skill is called Decide over at the training site. All right, so that's a brief overview of the competencies or the types of questions you can expect on your test. What do you know about the percent to pass? This is what determines the total number of correct answers needed to pass your test. What have you heard? All right, well, in most states, it's in the low 70s. So let's just take 75 as an example. And that's not right up there because that says 56 questions. Is that correct? All right, so if that's true, did we say there was 56? Okay, so that's just an example. All right, so you would need 42 out of 56. That's right. Some states do have that is 56 questions on their test. Others have 40. I know in Florida they have 40, for example. Okay. So why is it important to know that you can miss 14 questions if you have this test? Right, because you can put yourself on a pace for success. You can slow down. The object is to go find the answers that you can answer successfully. So in this case, just go find your 42. All right, so let's finish this up by asking you one more time, one more discussion session here. If the entire test was built on just one of the competencies, which would you choose? What's your preference? Are you pretty good at recognizing key ideas? Let's say, okay, time's not an issue. Are you pretty good at the key ideas? Finding the purpose? Do you like those structure questions? Figuring out the authors, why they put certain phrases or sentences together? Or do you find it easier to identify those vocabulary words? All right, talk about this at the tables. What if you could have at least a test with all the questions, all 56 questions in this case, based on just one of these competencies? We'll come back as a group and compare your ideas. All right, again, for you folks joining us today online, share your thoughts and we'll include them up here in the discussion. All right, and if you're joining us by the Test Camp YouTube channel, this might be your last time, I think it is, to pause the recording. List some of your thoughts about which you prefer here. Okay, what would be your strongest area and maybe which would be your most challenging? We'll be back when you restart the video. Well, you had very different preferred topics, we got to say that, but everyone agrees that the more time is invested answering questions when you focus in on the key ideas and the purpose than on structure or vocabulary. Okay, just a suggestion that came from those who went before you. So to prepare for this test, you've joined this workshop and you've gained knowledge about what to expect and a little bit of knowledge about what you've already known. Another way to prepare for this test is select the tools you might need, the best and most reliable resources for guaranteeing your success. So expect to see this sign again along the pathways during the test skills training. Encouraging messages are posted by those who have gone before you, and in this case, the message is to avoid spending your time and your money on expensive resources that you just don't need. Commercial websites and webinars are a good example. So avoid paying for fees for free test information and strategies. Those are published out there for free by the test company. Expensive tutors and tutoring companies might be an option, but that's for more challenging tests. That's not for something like this. And overpriced study guides also out there being sold for profit. Many study guides are available either free or are very inexpensive. I'm going to show you why in just a moment. And a more effective and inexpensive resource would be textbooks. Now that you know the competencies being tested, you can use textbooks to review and study the test content. Now in the My Resources area over at the training site, expect to find the most popular and up-to-date tools for your success. You can see that they're either going to be free or very inexpensive there. And again, many resources are available online. Right, and that's actually a link right there to Amazon. So instead of investing time and money on resources, invest time in yourself. Practice your test skills. Expect to gain confidence and personal independence. Your pass provides admission to these training areas. Up there at the top, My Test. This activity and get you started. You can check your understanding of the test blueprint and everything we've talked about here today. You can also take a pre-test before you plan out your training. This is the Test Camp problem solving system. Look at that first step up there. Right, identify the type of question by the competency. That's what we've been doing here today. There's quizzes and tests. They provide an opportunity to practice your test skills while assessing your test content knowledge. And quizzes are based on the competencies. Questions and answers change randomly on each attempt. There's even a combined quiz down there that helps you get ready for those practice tests. And these are constructed with features like those you can expect to find on test day. As you complete the training activities, you can also earn points towards a professional test certificate, and that guarantees your success. Alright, so then expect to perform with the confidence that comes from the knowledge and skills earned during the training. Let's get started. There's no better time than now to empower your test confidence.